And to get you all the big exclusive news breaks coming in on the politics over the Shivamoga murder and much more, Nabila Jamal is joining us live from Shivamoga this morning. Nabila, good morning. It's over to you for all the updates.
I'm right here in Shivamoga. This is the very, very tense district right now where we're looking at heavy police deployment only to ensure that there's some kind of harmony that's maintained. But the kind of visuals that we saw that unfolded in this very district was really worrisome. We're looking at heavy police deployment from different parts of Karnataka. They've been deployed only to ensure that there is peace and calm maintained. I'm going to take you through all the developments coming in from Shivamoga over the murder of a Bajrang Dal activist. But first, a big news coming in that India Today has spoken to JP Nadda. The BJP president has in fact said that he has slammed Eshwarappa, K S Eshwarappa, for the comments that he's made. In fact, JP Nadda there saying that it's not right for what Eshwarappa has said and that he did not wait for him to address the issue and spoke to Eshwarappa, slammed him for making such comments. In fact, India Today, while speaking exclusively to BJP President JP Nadda on the issue here, Nadda has said that he slammed Eshwarappa and said that such statements should not come from anyone. Nadda has also added that irresponsible behavior will not be tolerated within the party. BJP chief there has also said that the Saffron party allows, in fact, it follows the constitution and the law, and irresponsible behavior will not be tolerated. JP Nadda has also added here that stern warning has been issued to K S Eshwarappa. Karnataka Minister K S Eshwarappa earlier had claimed that saffron flag may become the national flag sometime in the future. His remarks come amid growing protests over the hijab row in Karnataka colleges. Let's have a listen.
कर्नाटक के वरिष्ठ मंत्री हैं के एस ईश्वरप्पा, जिन्होंने बयान दिया भगवे ध्वज को लेके कि देश में भगवा ध्वज लहराएगा, तो जो डी के शिव कुमार हैं, सिद्धारमैया है, कर्नाटक के नेता, वो तो एकदम बीजेपी चढ़ गए कि यही बीजेपी की सोच है, इनको तो तिरंगा पसंद ही नहीं, तो भगवा ध्वज चाहते। तो आपने ईश्वरप्पा से बात की?
बिल्कुल।
क्या कहा
हमने? दिस इज नॉट पॉसिबल, ये वक्तव्य नहीं होना चाहिए,
बोला आपने?
हाँ, पक्का, बिल्कुल। मैं इसमें देर कभी करता नहीं हूं। देखिए, हम कानून पर चलने वाले लोग हैं, हम संविधान को मानने वाले लोग हैं, संविधान की रक्षा करना हमारी जिम्मेवारी है। वी आर नेशनलिस्ट पीपल। और गलत बयानी, इररिस्पॉन्सिबल बयानी हम बर्दाश्त नहीं करते हैं। और मैं, क्षमा करिएगा, कई बार क्या होता है कि कई लोग ऐसे होते हैं, अति उत्साही हो जाते हैं, विदिन उनको मालूम है कि अब फोन आने वाला है और मैंने पूछना और अच्छा।
क्या बताया उन्होंने आपको?
वो बता रहे थे कि ऐसा हुआ, शिव कुमार ने कहा, मैंने कहा नथिंग डूइंग।
अच्छा किया, टाइट किया मतलब आपने?
हम शब्द टाइट नहीं बोलते हैं, लेकिन हमारे सीनियर लीडर हैं, उनको हमने जिन शब्दों में बताना चाहिए था कि इस तरीके से नहीं होता है, और ये ठीक नहीं है।
Heard what JP Nadda had to say, in fact, hitting out at Eshwarappa, saying that comments that he's made is irresponsible and that the BJP does not subscribe to his views. Let me quickly cut across to Nolan Pinto, who's been very closely following up on the developments here in Shivamoga. This is, in fact, the hotbed where we saw communal violence taking place. We saw a large-scale protests that took place just yesterday, which is why we see heavy deployment, police deployment all around here. In fact, Section 144 prohibitory orders have been imposed, so no large gatherings will be allowed. A very cautious police there. Nolan Pinto, we understand that yesterday's scenes were really scary. We saw some of the protesters there wielding swords. And many complaints of arson that came about from some of the localities there. It is worrisome, but today we see an eerie calm that prevails in Shivamoga.
Well, good morning, Nabila. In fact, thankfully, and this is much deserved, that we need calm and peace in the city after what really happened yesterday. The police, in fact, have brought in a huge number of personnel from surrounding districts as well as from Bengaluru. Last night, when we went about to actually see what's happening in the city because of the curfew and the police bandobast, Barricades have been placed everywhere and every nook and cranny of the city. Police personnel have been deployed. The Rapid Action Force, or the RAF, were deployed at sensitive areas. When I spoke to the DC, he said that Section 144 has been imposed. Shops will be shut except or barring those dealing with basic essentials. Schools and colleges are also shut. But yes, there were so many incidents yesterday in various areas. In fact, when we were traveling, the police would actually tell us, don't go to this road or don't go into that particular lane, because you had both the communities pelting stones at each other. Some were burning bikes in the particular area. Now, what was also shocking is that, Nabila, in many cases, when the police were there itself, all this happened. So many are actually questioning, why did the police not stop them when they saw these things taking place? But thankfully today the situation is under control.
Right, you know, Nolan, the BJP minister in Karnataka, K S Eshwarappa's statements has really echoed in Karnataka Assembly, with the Congress now using that as ammunition there to attack the BJP, saying that this exposes the BJP's mindset. This is what the Congress has been saying as it demands for K S Eshwarappa's resignation. They've been camping inside the Assembly, setting all people's issues aside and prioritizing.
Go across Nabila again, but this is the big news break, the big exclusive here on India Today. BJP President JP Nadda speaking for the first time on the Saffron flag controversy and making it very, very clear that he's reprimanded K S Eshwarappa. Let's play out for you that excerpt again of exactly what JP Nadda told us here on India Today.
के वरिष्ठ मंत्री हैं के एस ईश्वरप्पा, जिन्होंने बयान दिया भगवे ध्वज को लेके कि देश में भगवा ध्वज लहराएगा, तो जो DK शिव कुमार हैं, सिद्धारमैया है, कर्नाटक के नेता, वो तो एकदम बीजेपी चढ़ गए कि यही बीजेपी की सोच है, इनको तो तिरंगा पसंद ही नहीं है, तो भगवा ध्वज चाहते। तो आपने ईश्वरप्पा से बात की?
बिल्कुल।
क्या कहा
हमने? दिस इज नॉट पॉसिबल, ये वक्तव्य नहीं होना चाहिए,
बोला आपने?
हाँ,
पक्का?
बिल्कुल। मैं इसमें देर कभी करता नहीं हूं। देखिए, हम कानून पर चलने वाले लोग हैं, हम संविधान को मानने वाले लोग हैं, संविधान की रक्षा करना हमारी जिम्मेवारी है। वी आर नेशनलिस्ट पीपल। और गलत बयानी, इररिस्पॉन्सिबल बयानी हम बर्दाश्त नहीं करते हैं। और मैं, क्षमा करिएगा, कई बार क्या होता है कि कई लोग ऐसे होते हैं, अति उत्साही हो जाते हैं, विदिन उनको मालूम है कि अब फोन आने वाला है और मैंने पूछना और अच्छे।
क्या बताया उन्होंने आपको?
वो बता रहे थे कि ऐसा हुआ शिव कुमार ने कहा, मैंने कहा नथिंग डूइंग।
अच्छा किया, टाइट किया मतलब आपने?
हम शब्द टाइट नहीं बोलते हैं, लेकिन हमारे सीनियर लीडर हैं, उनको हमने जिन शब्दों में बताना चाहिए था कि इस तरीके से नहीं होता है, ये ठीक नहीं है।
Going back to Nolan on that, Nolan, JP Nadda very clearly saying that this is not done. What Eshwarappa said was not right, and the BJP has given him a clear dressing down. That's almost been conveyed in that exclusive chat with India Today. That said, has the BJP in Karnataka so far commented on K S Eshwarappa's statements? Because it appears that this kind of blame game over the saffron flag being erected in place of the national flag has really resulted in a fallout that we saw yesterday. It seems like one after the other there are comments coming in from politicians which really isn't helping the cause. While we're seeing already communal tensions and undercurrent lying here, these kind of comments are really helping this communal tension surface and the violence that unfolds after that. It's very tragic that really no one is helping this.
Connection with Nabila and Nolan getting us the latest updates from Shivamoga. But this is the big news break here on India Today as we continue to lead the coverage in the hijab controversy and the saffron flag row. The first statement from the BJP chief, JP Nadda, not mincing his words, making it very, very clear that these kind of statements are simply not appreciated and that K S Eshwarappa has been pulled up. The reality, Nolan, is that while JP Nadda has made it very clear that this is not the BJP stand, there will be questions of why the Karnataka BJP then hasn't gone ahead and pulled up Eshwarappa yet, when Assembly they've defended this statement.
Well, Akshita, we have seen the pandemonium in the Karnataka Assembly over there, with the Karnataka Congress basically not allowing the session to function properly, stating that, one, that the governor and the chief minister should dismiss K S Eshwarappa and sedition charges should be booked against him for his utterances against the national flag. Now with JP Nadda actually coming out and berating K S Eshwarappa, we have to actually see today what really happens, because all this while the Karnataka BJP has been solidly supporting K S Eshwarappa, saying that his statement has been taken out of context. The Congress is only using one part of his statement. They are not actually, they are not talking about the entire.
No, I'll just come across to you in a bit. Reactions now pouring in on this mega exclusive here on India Today. Brijesh Kalappa of the Congress is joining us on this broadcast. Mr. Brijesh Kalappa, good morning. JP Nadda speaking to India Today, saying that what Eshwarappa said is simply not okay and that the BJP has reprimanded him. Your reaction?
I think even Mr. Nadda realizes that a mere reprimand will not do. As you know, there is a Dishonor of National Emblems Act that is of 1971. In that act, anybody who even says something against the national flag gets a 3-year imprisonment. So there is an act which deals with these kind of situations. One, there is also the sedition provision, where anybody who speaks against the national flag obviously has performed treason and sedition. Therefore, this is another thing. The third and most important part is that if this is all these come into effect, if a normal, ordinary person speaks, but Mr. Eshwarappa is not an ordinary person standing on the street, and he's not speaking to one or two people. This is Mr. Eshwarappa, who is been sworn in under the Constitution, under Schedule 3 of the Constitution. And he has made the statement to holding responsible office. Now, when a person holds responsible office and makes a statement which degrades the national flag, then certainly the first thing that the party must have done is that they must have ousted him from office. But that they are not doing. They are saying, no, we berate him. Berate means what? I mean, there is already a provision within the law which says that no, the gentleman will be imprisoned for 3 years for having made such a statement, or alternately there would be cases of sedition against him. But what does a berate Mr. Eshwarappa do? That doesn't solve the problem. Merely, it's like the Prime Minister berating
Mr. Brijesh Kalappa, in that case, in those circumstances, what is the Congress's demand here? What kind of action do you deem fit for the BJP to take against Eshwarappa for his comment?
No, the first thing is, see, Mr. Eshwarappa is not known to be an outstanding minister or something. He is a person in whose house you have found even cash counting machines. So he's a very corrupt minister. It's not that, he's some kind of an extraordinary minister who can't be let go. First thing is that he must be dropped at any cost. Drop the gentleman. Then I think there would be some means of talking. But you don't file sedition charges. You're filing sedition charges against so many people across the country. After Mr. Modi has assumed office, the government has gone on a sedition charge spree. But why not against Mr. Eshwarappa? Or leave aside the sedition charge, at least the Dishonor Act. Why don't you initiate proceedings against him? But first thing is to please oust the gentleman from the ministry. He can't continue as a minister by saying that, look, I disrespect the national flag.
Okay, fair enough. Brijesh Kalappa, thank you for joining us with your perspective and your view on this massive controversy. K S Eshwarappa had, in fact, made a very, very provocative statement when he said that perhaps in a few years from now, the tricolour will be replaced by the saffron flag. It's this that JP Nadda has condemned. I want you to listen in first to what Eshwarappa said exactly that's brought in that reprimand from the BJP president.
ಕಟ್ತೀರಾ ಅಂತಂದಾಗ ಒಂದ್ ಕಾಲದಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ರು ನಗ್ತಿದ್ರು ಹೌದಾ ಕಟ್ಟಿದ್ವಲ್ಲ ಈಗ ಹಾಗೆ ಯಾವುದೋ ಕಾಲದಲ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ನು 100 ವರ್ಷನೋ 200 ವರ್ಷನೋ 500 ವರ್ಷ ನಂತರ ಭಗವಾ ಧ್ವಜವೇ ರಾಷ್ಟ್ರ ಧ್ವಜ ಆಗಬಹುದು ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ನನಗೆ
कर्नाटक के वरिष्ठ मंत्री हैं के एस ईश्वरप्पा, जिन्होंने बयान दिया भगवे ध्वज को लेके कि देश में भगवा ध्वज लहराएगा, तो जो DK शिव कुमार हैं, सिद्धारमैया है, कर्नाटक के नेता, वो तो एकदम बीजेपी चढ़ गए कि यही बीजेपी की सोच है, इनको तो तिरंगा पसंद ही नहीं, तो भगवा ध्वज चाहते। तो आपने ईश्वरप्पा से बात की?
बिल्कुल।
क्या कहा
हमने? दिस इज नॉट पॉसिबल, ये वक्तव्य नहीं होना चाहिए,
बोला आपने?
हाँ,
पक्का?
बिल्कुल।
अच्छा।
मैं इसमें देर कभी करता नहीं हूं। देखिए, हम कानून पर चलने वाले लोग हैं, हम संविधान को मानने वाले लोग हैं, संविधान की रक्षा करना हमारी जिम्मेवारी है। वी आर नेशनलिस्ट पीपल। और गलत बयानी, इररिस्पॉन्सिबल बयानी हम बर्दाश्त नहीं करते हैं। और मैं, क्षमा करिएगा, कई बार क्या होता है कि कई लोग ऐसे होते हैं, अति उत्साही हो जाते हैं, विदिन उनको मालूम है कि अब फोन आने वाला है और मैंने पूछना ही पूछना। और अच्छे
क्या बताया उन्होंने आपको?
वो बता रहे थे कि ऐसा हुआ, शिव कुमार ने कहा, मैंने कहा नथिंग डूइंग।
अच्छा किया, टाइट किया मतलब आपने?
हम शब्द टाइट नहीं बोलते हैं, लेकिन हमारे सीनियर लीडर हैं, उनको हमने जिन शब्दों में बताना चाहिए था कि इस तरीके से नहीं होता है, और ये ठीक नहीं है।
So JP Nadda, they're talking very tough with K S Eshwarappa, saying very clearly, my message to him was nothing doing. You cannot make such statements. Shivamoga is joining us on this broadcast as well. Shiv, the first time that we've had a reaction from the High Command, from the BJP High Command on this entire controversy surrounding Eshwarappa. And JP Nadda hasn't minced his words. He's made it very, very clear that these kind of statements are simply not okay. The question, however, that the opposition is asking now is whether this kind of a reprimand will be followed by action. Will Eshwarappa be sacked then?
This is a huge cracking of the whip by JP Nadda, the BJP president, no less than that, Akshita, and therefore, some measure of discipline will have to be effected now in the Karnataka government and the BJP, because you've had several leaders, including people like Eshwarappa mainly, making stray comments, including this notorious comment on the Saffron flag replacing the Tiranga in the years to come. That has seriously, obviously embarrassed the BJP. It's unconscionable, it's indefensible. No amount of spin and PR can, mask, words that Eshwarappa has spoken. And clearly he has embarrassed the High Command and the party. And therefore, I think what JP Nadda has basically done is decided that we need to, do some damage control. And the only way to do it is a public reprimand of Eshwarappa. You know Eshwarappa very well, Akshita. He's a bit of a motor mouth, given to inflammatory comments, especially during sensitive times. And this time he's appeared to cross a line, especially at a time when blood has been spilled, tension continues to prevail, emotions are still running high in Shivamoga and elsewhere in coastal Karnataka. He's a member of the government. He's not just a member of the BJP. He's actually part of the Bombay government. And therefore, the level of irresponsibility has reached, a stage where it is simply indefensible. And therefore, I think the BJP leadership had decided there can be no half measures. This needs to be, stemmed immediately. There needs to be no, callback on this one from the Congress, even though we just heard Brajesh Kalappa say that the Congress is continuing to demand Eshwarappa's resignation. What the BJP has basically done right now is try to disarm the opposition and send out a message that they do not agree with the condemnable words that Eshwarappa has used. So that's what the BJP has basically done right now.
That's right, Shiv. Request you to stay on with us, Shiv, because I also want to discuss what this means going forward for K S Eshwarappa. Rahul Kanwal is joining us on this broadcast. Rahul, good morning. We're playing out an excerpt of the conversation that you had with JP Nadda. I'm sure you've interacted with Mr. Nadda several times, but the fact that, in that conversation, he talked so tough, didn't mince his words with K S Eshwarappa, clearly sends across a message that the High Command isn't happy with what Eshwarappa said.
Oh, absolutely, because in the conversation we had with Mr. Nadda, both on camera and then our chat before and after the interview, the message was very clear that they want to dial down some of this tension, that this whole idea that this is being provoked by the BJP with an aim on the elections, with an eye on the elections in Uttar Pradesh is something that Mr. Nadda denies quite categorically, saying that he actually called up Eshwarappa, and you see the kind of comment here on record, where he is very clear in his criticism of the comment that the senior Karnataka leader made on the question of the saffron flag. He also says that the matter is now in court. We don't want to be aggressive in our attacks on women wearing hijabs. We'd like everyone to follow the same dress code, but it's not something we want to forcibly enforce. So he's actually looking to dial down the tension and be very sensible in the middle of the road on the issue of the Hindutva activist who was murdered, saying that shouldn't lead to a provocation on either side, and also on the issue of Eshwarappa making these comments about a saffron flag being the flag of India's future.
Why do you think, Rahul, there's been such a stern statement by Nadda there with regards to Eshwarappa? Do you believe that this perhaps the BJP believes could dent their image also of being a nationalist party, and that's why the High Command has taken such strong offence to what he said?
You know, on the issue of the saffron flag, it's been a bit of a sore point for the BJP and the RSS because, you know, this is one of the attacks that the Congress has where it is said that after independence for a long while, the RSS didn't really fly the national flag because that was seen as a flag put up by the Congress government. They'd rather fly the saffron flag, which has actually changed. You know, it's not a new phenomenon that's now long embedded, and therefore any suggestion that they want to bring back the saffron flag obviously doesn't sit well with the BJP, which thinks of itself as the party of modern India, and therefore would not want to be holding on to this controversy from the past, which is why JP Nadda, who's very calibrated and measured in his words, actually came out and made the kind of strong statement that he did in that interview we did last evening, which is going to play tonight at 8 o'clock on India Today at 9 p.m. on Amidst.
Right, and that's a conversation, of course, our viewers cannot afford to miss. Just a glimpse that we've given for all of you on what Nadda's had to say on K S Eshwarappa. Rahul, request you to stay on with us. I just want to play out again exactly what Eshwarappa said a few weeks ago that's prompted this very, very strong reprimand from JP Nadda.
ಕಟ್ತೀರಾ ಅಂತಂದಾಗ ಒಂದ್ ಕಾಲದಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ರು ನಗ್ತಿದ್ರು ಹೌದಾ ಕಟ್ಟುದಲ್ಲ ಈಗ ಹಾಗೆ ಯಾವುದೋ ಕಾಲದಲ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ನು 100 ವರ್ಷನೋ 200 ವರ್ಷನೋ 500 ವರ್ಷ ನಂತರ ಭಗವತ್ ಧ್ವಜವೇ ರಾಷ್ಟ್ರಧ್ವಜ ಆಗಬಹುದು ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ನನಗೆ
कर्नाटक के वरिष्ठ मंत्री हैं के एस ईश्वरप्पा, जिन्होंने बयान दिया भगवे ध्वज को लेके कि देश में भगवा ध्वज लहराएगा। तो जो DK शिव कुमार हैं, सिद्धारमैया है, कर्नाटक के नेता, वो तो एकदम बीजेपी चढ़ गए कि यही बीजेपी की सोच है, इनको तो तिरंगा पसंद ही नहीं, तो भगवा ध्वज चाहते। तो आपने ईश्वरप्पा से बात की?
बिल्कुल।
क्या कहा
हमने दिस इज नॉट पॉसिबल, ये वक्तव्य नहीं होना चाहिए,
बोला आपने?
हाँ,
पक्का?
बिल्कुल। मैं इसमें देर कभी करता नहीं हूं। देखिए, हम कानून पर चलने वाले लोग हैं, हम संविधान को मानने वाले लोग हैं, संविधान की रक्षा करना हमारी जिम्मेवारी है। वी आर नेशनलिस्ट पीपल। और गलत बयानी, इररिस्पॉन्सिबल बयानी हम बर्दाश्त नहीं करते हैं। और मैं क्षमा करिएगा, कई बार क्या होता है कि कई लोग ऐसे होते हैं, अति उत्साही हो जाते हैं, विदिन उनको मालूम है कि अब फोन आने वाला है और मैंने पूछना और अच्छे
क्या बताया उन्होंने आपको?
वो बता रहे थे कि ऐसा हुआ, शिव कुमार ने कहा, मैंने कहा नथिंग डूइंग।
अच्छा किया, टाइट किया मतलब?
हम शब्द टाइट नहीं बोलते हैं, लेकिन हमारे सीनियर लीडर हैं, उनको हमने जिन शब्दों में बताना चाहिए था कि इस तरीके से नहीं होता है, और ये ठीक नहीं है।
Let's take this back across to our news director, Rahul Kanwal, who spoke to JP Nadda on this. Rahul, we also had a reaction that came in from the Congress on what Nadda's had to say. They're saying, great, that, he's condemning what Eshwarappa said, that he's pulled him up, he's spoken to him and said, this is unacceptable. But they're also asking what next, because the BJP Karnataka, curiously, is backing Eshwarappa to the hilt.
Part of this is the fact that the old guard in the Karnataka BJP, those with strong affiliation with the RSS and those who've been the traditional Karnataka BJP workers like Eshwarappa, aren't very happy with the Basavaraj Bommai, who's been installed after Mr. Yediyurappa as Chief Minister. And it is in some ways also internal wrangling, where the more Karnataka seems in chaos, the more the message goes out to people in Karnataka and to the powers that be in Delhi that Mr. Bommai is not being able to handle things and that his government is ineffectual. Remember, Home Minister Amit Shah had said publicly that the 2023 elections in Karnataka will be fought under the leadership of Mr. Bommai. This is something which clearly there are elements in the Karnataka BJP who would not like. And therefore, part of this, which is why we're seeing the kind of muscle flexing that we are, not all of it with the explicit approval of the centre, because they want to kind of show that things are in ferment, that the state government's not doing a good job, and that, like you changed Eshwarappa, would there be a need before the elections or at some point in time over the next few months to change Mr. Bommai? So there is that story within a story, an undercurrent which is playing in the very muddy waters in Karnataka at this moment.
That's right. I also want to discuss, what is the road ahead now? Will the BJP then go ahead and crack the whip, not just stop with the warning, but also then sack him as a minister? Shivamoga is also with us on this broadcast. Shiv, considering how, things have played out in the assembly, the kind of pressure on the BJP because of the Congress staging, a sleepover protest. They've been saying that Eshwarappa must be booked for sedition. He must be sacked. With the BJP now publicly recognizing that what Eshwarappa said is wrong, do you believe that then there will be action also against Eshwarappa, that he could perhaps be sacked as a minister?
The BJP will be hoping that this very public reprimand is going to be enough to kill this entire issue, Akshita. Let's face it. I don't think the BJP, wants to wants to feel forced to actually sack someone. Remember, there have been several occasions in the past when you had, the Congress or the opposition demanding the resignation or the sacking of a motor-mouth minister. But the BJP has never, really, bent on those issues. There have been some issues where, crimes have been committed where the BJP has had to bend to the opposition, and to the law. But this time, I don't think they're going to do that because, no apparent crime has been committed as far as the BJP is concerned. But they've been embarrassed enough to actually come out with this rare public reprimand of a sitting minister in a state in which they're the ruling party. So the BJP will be hoping that this is enough. And it will also mean that, when the Congress stages its statewide protest calling for Eshwarappa's resignation, the BJP now has ammunition to fire back and say, look, the BJP president, no less than the BJP president, has publicly rebuked Eshwarappa, and that's as far as it's going to go. So you guys can continue to protest if you want, but he's gotten the message. He's been asked to basically zip up and stop, putting out these inflammatory messages into the public and behave like a responsible minister. So as far as the BJP leadership is concerned, they feel insulated now from the issue. They feel like they've done enough to actually kill this issue. And now whatever the Congress wants to do is on their watch and their time. So I think as far as the controversy is concerned, I doubt very much that there will be any further action against Eshwarappa.
And there's no doubt that this news break, this conversation with JP Nadda is going to resonate in the Karnataka Assembly as well, something that we'll track very, very closely. Rahul and Shiv, thank you very much for joining us on this broadcast. A quick reminder for all of your viewers out there that the full conversation with BJP President JP Nadda this election season on a slew of issues, from the Karnataka hijab controversy to what Eshwarappa said to, of course, the battle for Uttar Pradesh. That entire conversation you can catch at 8 p.m. tonight right here on India Today.